been on a mission to make its cars more fun. We already know about the Supra, and they even put TRD badges on the Camry and Avalon. Now it's time for the Corolla to get its own sporty makeover with a special edition. Interestingly, Toyota didn't decide to use the TRD name, instead deciding to call this the Corolla Apex Edition, named after the fastest point to get around a corner on a racetrack. So what is the Toyota Corolla Apex all about? Well, today I'm going to show you. So let's start off with what is by far the coolest part of the Corolla Apex, the exterior styling, where Toyota, I think, has nailed it here. You get a choice of one of three colors. You can either have this black, you can have white, or you can have a cool silver finish that is exclusive to the Apex Edition, which comes with a black roof. I think if I was going to go for a color on this car, I think the black looks awesome, the all blacked out look, but I think I'd go for the silver just because it's an Apex exclusive that you won't see on any other Corollas. Now, the Corolla is already a really cool looking car, but the blacked out just makes it look even better. We've got the cool black Toyota badge right here, all blacked out. The accent color that Toyota has chosen for this vehicle is bronze. I love these little bronze accents here, different than the red accents you get on a TRD model. You also get a cool ground effects kit here up in the front. Now, this car does sit 0.6 inches lower than a regular Corolla, and it sits on these cool 18-inch black wheels, although I do wish that the brake colors behind it would be finished in bronze to match the rest of it. You get performance summer tires, but you can also opt for an all season. Over here we have the ground effects kit going all the way across the car, just like a Camry or Avalon TRD, but we of course have bronze instead of red. The ground effects kit comes all the way back into the rear diffuser, giving this car a lot more of an aggressive look in the back. We also have the optional spoiler. I think that looks really cool sitting here on the Corolla sedan. And just like the front, all of our badges are blacked out. We have a black Toyota badge, a black Corolla badge, and a black badge letting us know that we have an Apex Edition. Now down here we have a single exhaust tip stainless steel, and that actually is a catback exhaust, just like they do on the Avalon and Camry TRDs, and it makes this sound louder than a normal Corolla. So now that we've checked out what's unique on the outside of the Corolla Apex, let's come inside, where unfortunately there's not too much specific to the Apex that's different here on the interior. So this is going to be a rather short clip. If you want to know more about the Corolla's interior in general, we just posted a video of the Corolla hatchback that you can look, and that'll give you more on like the infotainment, storage, and stuff like that. This is mainly going to be focused on the Apex specific goodies. And since we have the base SE trim level, I've never actually driven the current Corolla in an SE. We have different gauges than we did in the hatchback. Those were a digital screen. These are all regular gauges except for this little helper screen here on the right. We have a big tachometer with a nice silver ring around it, and then you have your or speedometer, I'm sorry, with a silver ring around it. Your tachometer is off to the side. I actually really like these gauges. They kind of remind me of like an old school Corolla from like the mid 2000s or even the 90s. They're very cool, sporty looking. I do like that. You get a leather steering wheel that's really nice with bronze stitching to match the exterior of the car. Because we only have the SE, we have these gray fabric seats that do have a little bit of bronze stitching. You know, I almost didn't even notice it at first. We have the 6-speed manual here with bronze stitching on the shift boot. Now, most of these cars are going to come with a CVT automatic transmission, but we've got the rarefied 6-speed manual. Not many of these are going to be sold in manual. I'll talk a little bit more about that when we get it out on the road. We have our electronic parking brake that you're going to need to use now that you have a manual. We also have the hold button, which is really useful when you're driving a manual transmission car like this. You just push that. When you come to a stop, it'll hold the brakes for you, so that way if you're doing a hill start, you don't have to hold the brakes. Love that feature as well. And this is pretty basic, but Corollas still have a ton of standard equipment. So we've still got automatic headlights, we still have adaptive cruise control, lane keep assist, we have automatic climate control, only single zone, but it's still automatic. We've got the nice 8-inch screen here with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, so I am quite impressed with what you get in here as standard. No heated seats, like no leather, things like that you would get on the XSE trim. The only thing that we're probably missing here that I wish we had was blind spot monitoring. I do wish we had that. And I'm gonna give a cup holder score. It's gonna be the same cup holder score that I gave the Corolla hatchback, which is going to be a 2 out of 5. We've got 2 solid cup holders back here. The door pockets aren't that great, and we do have have some room in the back as well. But unlike the hatchback, we don't have cup holders on the door pockets, which is a little weird that you get those on the hatch, but not on the sedan here. So this only gets a 2 out of 5 instead of a 3 out of 5 like we gave the Corolla hatchback. Now back here, the Corolla Apex has pretty good room. We've got 34.8 inches of legroom, which is more than you'll get on a Corolla hatchback. The sedan is better for backseat passengers, although we still have the weird Corolla quirk of the back door not opening far enough, which makes it just a little bit difficult for egress and ingress in and out of here. So something to be considered if you have larger people getting in and out of the back. Now the Corolla Apex doesn't lose anything in terms of practicality over a regular Corolla sedan, so you still have 13.1 cubic feet of space back here. I think it's pretty usable, like pretty big. You can get some large items back in here. The Corolla hatchback technically has more space, so if you're getting taller items and larger items, like the hatchback is probably better, but I think most people are probably going to gravitate towards the sedan. You just have the more secure storage space, and you have a larger opening here, so I think the sedan is pretty useful, although if it was my money, I'd probably still go for the hatchback. All right, so let's get the Corolla Apex out on the road and see how it drives. Now this is the sportiest version of the Corolla that is currently available, so we can almost consider it as a preview for the upcoming GR Gazoo Racing Corolla that's supposedly coming out with a 3-cylinder turbocharged engine and a lot more performance. So let's talk about what we actually get with the Apex that makes it sportier to drive. So you get a lot of suspension upgrades. We already talked about the 18-inch wheels. Those are going to save 2.2 pounds on each corner. You know, that should help with performance just a little bit. You get a track tuned suspension, Toyota says, and what that basically means is you're getting coil springs that are 0.6 inches lower, and they have they're lower and they have an increased spring rate with tuned shocks and increased dampening force. So basically what Toyota says is the suspension is now 47% stiffer up front and 33% stiffer in the rear, but to keep it from being too uncomfortable, they added jounce bumpers, just like they do on the TRD 4Runner, and those work magic on the TRD 4Runner. It makes that car soft, ride like a cloud. Unfortunately, I'm not sure what they're doing here. The first time I ever took a speed bump in this car, it breaks your back. They completely ruined the Corolla's ride on this. I just went over this road, I'm sorry, is not that stiff, and I just went over a small bump and I felt it crazy. Like, it just vibrates your back out. I'm shocked that they made the Corolla this stiff. The one thing I really loved about the Corolla was that it handled quite well without really being stiff, but this Apex edition just, yeah, they definitely did some things to the suspension. When you go over a bump, you definitely feel it. So if you're not one for a firm ride, this should not be the car for you. They've also done some tuning to the steering that's specific to the Apex. I think I can feel it. Like, it definitely feels a little bit more direct. They said it has more of a V-shaped curve to it. So I think the on-center feedback is a little bit better than what you'll get in a normal Corolla. So that's quite nice as well, that they've definitely made it firmer and a little more dynamic to drive. But let's talk about this car's big problem, and that is the power. We still only have a 2-liter 4-cylinder engine producing 169 horsepower and 151 pound-feet of torque. So let's see how it does when I accelerate. Come on. It's just not very fast. 8 seconds from 0 to 60. That's not a performance car time. You're really not going to be like impressing too many people with your 8-second 0 to 60 time. And you may have noticed I am rowing my own gears. I already showed you the 6-speed manual transmission when we were in the interior. Now Toyota is only building 6,000 Apex Edition cars, and just 120 of them are going to come with this 6-speed manual. The rest are all going to be CVT, which simulates 10 gears gears. Toyota's CVT is actually pretty good, but I don't know why you would want this like performance, stiff, uncomfortable Corolla and then not get a manual. So the fact that they're only doing 120 manuals is a bit weird. You also have to pay more money to get this manual as opposed to the regular Corolla where it's sort of like a no-cost option. It's $390 to get this, so I guess if you're buying this car, I definitely recommend the manual. I couldn't imagine you wanting to drive this car with the CVT. It's just a little bit weird. We have the IMT button, the intelligent manual transmission button. So when I push that, it's gonna rev match just a little bit. Although I don't think the rev matching is really all that good. It's definitely not as good as like the Civic Type R, where you really feel it. Let's see, I'm gonna downshift. Like, it blips the throttle just like a little bit, but I can do it better if I rev match myself. So I don't love that. They also didn't really change anything on the manual for the Apex Edition, so it's still a very long stick with very long throws that are semi-notchy, but nowhere near Honda's level. Not even really as good as Volkswagen's shifter, to be perfectly honest, so that's a little bit disappointing. What they did do, just like the Camry and Avalon TRD models, is give you a catback exhaust. So they say at wide open throttle, you should be able to hear it. Let's listen. Like, it sounds pretty decent. I haven't really heard what it sounds like on the outside. Let's give it another throttle. Yeah, I think it's definitely a little louder than a normal Corolla, but I don't know. It's just, it's not that throaty. So this engine is just not that characteristic to me. It's just a normal kind of generic 4-cylinder sound to me. And the problem is you really have to drag it and get it all the way up there in the revs for it to give you any sort of power. You have to really just string it out. And it doesn't rev quickly. It's not a quick rever. It's a very, like when you blip the throttle, it kind of just goes, like it doesn't quickly get up there in the revs. I really wish Toyota had done like what they did with the old XRS. Remember that car? Had the same 1UZ engine that you used to get in a Lotus Elise, revved at like 8,000. It was such a characteristic engine. So I'm just so disappointed that Toyota did all of these suspension upgrades to this car and then just didn't do anything to the engine, because it just doesn't feel like a performance car to me. It feels like they kind of half-weighed it. And I asked Toyota, I said, did you guys ever consider making this a TRD product? And they said, well, we have very specific criteria for a TRD product, and we didn't think this met the criteria, so we decided to go this other direction with it. I think that's their way of saying it wasn't fast enough. I don't know if the engineers wanted to give it the engine that it deserves, and the marketing guys just didn't think it needed it. I don't know what ended up happening there, but you end up with this kind of half-baked performance car that's really stiff, but doesn't actually get any faster than a regular Corolla, which is just such a weird thing to me. I just don't get it. Oh my God, the suspension is so stiff. And you're going to lose fuel economy because of the extra weight of the or because of the bigger wheels and the spoiler and things like that. So the fuel economy is not even that great either on this model. With the manual, you're going to get 28 in the city, 35 on the highway, 31 combined. The CVT fares a little better with 30 in the city, 38 on the highway, and 33 combined. But on the manual, that's about 1 mpg worse than you'll do with the regular Corolla. And with the CVT, it's about 2 mpg worse than you would do with a regular Corolla. So you're going to pay a fuel economy penalty. The suspension, we're about to go over some real big bumps here. You're going to hear it. I'm getting rattled all over the place. And it's just not any faster. It looks cool, but I feel as a performance car, they just didn't hit the mark. And we're going to sum up this when we hop out of the car. When you start to consider the price, this Apex really falls apart. So that was the 2021 Toyota Corolla Apex Edition. If you want one of the 6,000 of these that Toyota is going to build, you'll have to pony up a little over $26,000. Now that is according to a leaked dealer document. Toyota sent me this car but didn't actually send me any pricing on it, so we're just going off of that leaked document, assuming that that's going to be the price. 26 grand is about $2,700 more than a regular Corolla SE. You're going to pay about $390 more if you want the manual transmission on this this model. They're only gonna build 120 of those, so I would say try and get one of those. I think it's way more rare. I think it's probably worth $400 for the rarity of it. Now, if you want the XSE, according to that leaked document, you're gonna be paying a little over $29,000, and for that price, I think Toyota is out of their minds with this car. For that price, you can get a Jetta GLI, you can get a Civic Si, you can get either of the two Korean options, the Hyundai Elantra N, N-Line, or the Kia Forte GT. You could probably even get a Hyundai Veloster N, which has almost 100 more horsepower than you're gonna get in this Corolla. So I wish they would have just done more with the engine, and the suspension kind of ruins the handling and the ride comfort for me. I really like the way it looks, but overall, I think the Corolla Apex Edition misses the Apex by a mile. We hope you've enjoyed this review of the 2021 Toyota Corolla Apex Edition. For more videos like it, be sure to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell to be alerted of our latest videos. Also, check us out on all of the other social media platforms, including Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, where we have cool videos, shorter videos that are more fun and more, action-y than what we have here. We hope you really enjoy that, and if you've enjoyed this video, I'll see you next time.